Greetings. My name is Letitia Hensley, and I'm the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Director of Family and Community Engagement. We are excited that you are joining us today and know you will gain great insight from this session. At the conclusion of today's session, please provide feedback so that we can continue to support you with amazing sessions that will be provided throughout the year. Now, without further ado, we'll turn it over to our presenters.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Matt Winston. I am with Truist Bank. I am excited to be your presenter today for this lunch and learn around budgeting during a crisis. You all will see on the screen, just a kind of intro page, there is a QR code on your screen. So feel free, if you want, to follow along as I go throughout the presentation. Feel free to scan that QR code. That will pull up the workbook that has all this information in there for you. But do not worry if you're not able to do that, or if you are joining via your phone so you can't scan the workbook. This presentation will be uploaded to the Family Academy website, and the workbook will be uploaded with that too as well. So you will have access to it. So excited to be here with you all today. I just want to start and kind of go through a few housekeeping items at the very beginning. So first and foremost, if you do need some translation support as we go throughout the presentation, we have on the slide right now how you can access this information. So in the top right corner, you will see where it says captions. Please click on that and then click on show live captions. Once you do that, you will have the option to use that select language dropdown to find your language of preference. So again, if you do need some translation support, you do have that available to you. So again, click captions, click show live captions, and then select language from the dropdown, okay? Also, as we go throughout the presentation, we definitely want to make sure that this is engaging, that your questions get answered. I want to hear from you as we go throughout. So there's going to be a couple different ways that we interact throughout the presentation. So a few things. First and foremost, if you want to ask a question, and we'll be using that quite a bit throughout the presentation, you would then click at the top, click Q&A, and then type your question into the box, okay? Questions will be monitored, so do not worry, do not fret. We will be able to see that as we go throughout, and then we will have Q&A time at the end of the presentation too as well, where your questions could get answered then. Also, feel free to share your reactions during the presentation as you see appropriate. I am a huge fan of a clap as I go throughout. If I say something that's so profound and you're like, that was good, use that clapping and hand clapping emoji. Or if you're like, I love that, that really resonated with me, use the heart emoji as well. Maybe I say something funny, use the laughing emoji. But feel free to use those emojis to share your reactions as we go throughout the presentation too. And so also, just to wrap this up, housekeeping section, we do want to hear from you from Family Academy. So you will see this link here too as well. This will get dropped but feel free to go out there and provide your feedback on today's session, and then also maybe things and additional topics that you want to hear about. So that being said, we started with some housekeeping. Let's get started. First and foremost, I wanted to share a little bit about myself. I know I said earlier, my name is Matt Winston. I am with Truist Bank. I am the financial inclusion leader with Truist. And so what does that mean? That means that I am charged with coming out into the community and bringing access to the resources, the education, the knowledge, and the tools that we all need to achieve financial confidence. And financial confidence looks different for each and every one of us, but we understand that it's our job here at Truist to be able to do that. I think about that. We are the 7th largest bank in the country, and our whole purpose is to inspire and build better lives and communities. And I look at it from a twofold approach. And so the inspire piece is making sure that you still feel empowered to dream the dreams that you have right now, that you've had for your life and your finances and your goals, right? So you don't stop dreaming. And that's so important because we know life can, as I say, life be lifing sometimes. It can be hard, it can be difficult, and sometimes situation and circumstances can make things a little bit challenging to get there. But we want to make sure and bring that knowledge and support you and wrap our arms around and say, hey, you can do this. It is possible. So that's that inspire piece. The other portion of our purpose is to build. And so what do we mean by that? That is our action charge to make sure that we are supporting the communities that we serve, not just by the brick and mortar branches, but how are we investing? So that looks like presentations like what we're doing today, and so many different other ways, community service and so forth, even investing into the communities. And so being between the inspire and the build, our goal is to make sure that you can achieve financial confidence. And this is exactly why we're having this presentation. And so that being said, I just want to encourage you all to, again, ask your questions. And so I am a big believer of this needs to be interactive. So I want to hear from you. So I'm going to post the first question in the Q&A because I want to get you all used to using this Q&A feature and then also responding. So I'm going to ask the first question. Y'all ready? The question is, what is for lunch? So you can simply hit the comment on that question that I posed. You can hit the comment feature and put it there. Get used to using those emojis too. You can like it, you can love it. But I want to hear, what are you having for lunch today? This is, again, going to get us used to actually being able to use the Q&A feature. So put in here, okay, I see it looks like a celebration emoji. I love it. I love it. For those that are like, okay, where's the comments? Feel free, again, to use this, respond to the question. I will tell you all while we're waiting for the responses to come through. For my lunch, I had a little bit of leftovers. I had some baked ziti. No, I did not cook it. I'm not that good, but it was delicious. So again, you all will see in the main Q&A section that question. But let's see, what are you having for lunch? Ooh, a Caesar salad. I see one answer, Caesar salad. I should have had a Caesar salad. That would have been the better selection for me versus baked ziti. So thank you for answering response. Let's see some more answers and responses. And again, comment in there. We want to be interactive as we go throughout. And would love to, again, this is just to get us used to leveraging the tool of responding to this and going through. A cheeseburger, fries and okra. Okay. I like what you did with the okra. You threw that in with the cheeseburger and fries. It balances out, at least in my mind. Ooh, grilled salmon, garbanzo beans, and salad. Y'all are doing much better than me for lunch, but I love that. You've given me some inspirations for my lunch tomorrow. I don't think I should have a second lunch today. We'll see. Who knows? But again, continue to answer. Would love to continue to see that. And so thank you all. And so as we think about going through this, Uncrustable and a bag of chips and an air pie. Okay. And so again, I talked a little bit about our Truist purpose, inspiring and building better lives and communities, and why we do what we do. Let's talk a little bit about this presentation, right? So this is our budgeting during a crisis presentation. And so to tell you all a little bit about this presentation and why we created it, we actually created this presentation at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? And the reason being is because I think we can all agree during that time, we were living through a global crisis. But I think it's so important to realize we kept this presentation because we had some conversation and dialogue, and we all agree a crisis doesn't have to be COVID-19. It doesn't have to be a whole pandemic. A crisis could be they reduced my hours at work, and now my salary has, or my monthly income has drastically dropped. A crisis could be the loss of a loved one. A crisis could be your spouse lost their job, so now you went from a two income household to a one income household for the moment. There's so many things that could put your finances in a crisis. And so the goal is for us, and we hope to really just kind of encourage you to really think about these resources that we're sharing, recognize that crisis could be so many different things, and really think through how these things can be applied. What I will say is we're going to talk a little bit about what is a crisis budget and everything. So a little bit about the agenda that we're going to go to. We're going to start why it's important to budget in and out of a crisis. We'll dive deep into actually creating a crisis budget. How do you go about it? How do you approach it? What's even the difference between your normal budget and a crisis budget? How to identify expenses, so the money going out of your account, ways that you can think about cost cutting. I think we can all say, if you're like me, I'm always thinking through how can I cut back on this? Where can I cut back? We'll talk through some of that. Identify income. So different ways you can think through bringing in money, creative income creation, and then we'll wrap up with some resources to help too as well. And then just how you can be forward thinking and look forward to the future, right? And so let's talk a little bit about why it's so important to budget in and out of a crisis. There is always a need for planning and budgeting, not just during a crisis. I cannot emphasize this enough. And so it really just gives you a full picture and understanding of your finances. I tell people all the time, you can't say, I want to achieve this. I want to get better at this. I want to see my finances build. I want to get out of this situation financially if you don't even know your starting point. Okay. Having that budget and assessing your finances really allows you to take a deep dive of where you're at, get that snapshot, and from there, plan. Be able to stick to what you're saying allows you to be disciplined and really establish a lot of principles that will actually carry you through in the good times and in difficult times. And so let's talk a little bit about how do we actually go about creating that crisis budget. You're going to start with identifying your expenses. And I want to say this before we dive into this. Understand this, your crisis budget is going to look different than your normal budget. Your crisis budget is going to look very different than your normal budget. Here's why. In a normal budget, I may not have to think through cutting back on certain things. But if I am in a crisis, I am in a state, in a situation where I really need to drill back on some stuff because I'm just trying to make it through. Okay. Understand that a crisis is not meant to be forever. And the goal and hope is this allows you to see and get you through to the other side. But it's going to look a little bit different on some of the things that we're going to say and suggest to cut back on. And so when you're in this crisis situation, we're talking about identifying expenses. What you're going to want to do is determine the minimum needed to survive and then do all you can to find enough monthly income to cover those necessities. Again, we're talking about when you're in that crisis moment and situation. You're going to want to determine the minimum needed to survive and then do all that you can to find enough monthly income to cover those necessities. Expenses, that's that money going out. Income, that's that money coming in. Okay. And so I have a question for you. We're going to talk about a little bit here in a second, two different types of, we call them expenses, must-have expenses. Okay. We're going to talk about your fixed must-haves and your variable must-haves. So my first question for you is, what would be considered fixed must-have expenses? I'm putting that into the Q&A too as well. So I literally put in there fixed must-have expenses, question mark. What are they? How would you define it? When you think about the bills that you're paying right now, what would you define as a fixed must-have expense? Is it this? Is it that? And I understand everybody's financial situation is different, but when you look back over your bills, you don't have to say the amount or anything, but how would you say, and what is a fixed must-have expense? And so when we think about fixed must-have expenses, they are literally defined as expenses that you must have, and they are a fixed monthly payment every single month. Yes, I see housing. I see rent or your mortgage. Absolutely. That's going to be that set payment every single month. Those are perfect examples of fixed must-have expenses. Anybody else? Yeah, again, feel free to answer the question that I put in the chat. And again, I said chat, but it's actually the Q&A. So if you look in the Q&A, you'll see that question that I put in there, the fixed must-have expenses. Feel free to answer that. So we have housing, we have rent or mortgage. Curious to see if anything else pops through. All right, we have, your mortgage, your car payment. Okay, yeah. So let's talk through a little bit of this, right? So what would be considered your fixed must-have expenses? So again, you all nailed it right on the head. You're going to think through things, your housing, right? So I have to have a place to live. That is a must-have and it's fixed. So your rent or your mortgage. But also thinking through things like your health insurance. You got to make sure that you and your family are covered and protecting. Your health insurance is there, life insurance, car insurance. All of those things would fall under your fixed must-have expenses because, again, you are going to be that set monthly payment every single month. But it is something that you absolutely have to have. Now, let's talk a little bit, and I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to put a new question in the chat. And so I want to hear, how would you all think through your variable must-have expenses? And so you'll see that new question in the chat. What are the variable must-have expenses? So we talked about fixed must-have. Those are the expenses you cannot do without that are the same amount each payment. Your variables are again, must-haves. I have to have it, but they can be up and down, right? 1 month they're this, 1 month they're that. Right? They may change month over month, or you may see some trends and some fluctuations, but also some decreases. So what would you all define as your variable must-have expenses? Think about what you are paying every single month, your bills that you have coming through. What would you say are those variable must-haves? I'm very excited to see what you all answer to this particular question, because sometimes I think people get a little bit tripped up with this one, but I know y'all are good, so I have no doubt that you all are going to have it down pat. Again, those variable must-have expenses, they have to have it, but getting it, the payment's going to look different month over month. So just look back, reflect over your budget, think through the things that you spend your money on. What could it be? What are some of the things that you're like, this just changes? Not quite the same. I see some differences every month, but I have to have it. I'm going to give it just another second, see if we get some answers coming through. There we go. Ooh, utilities. Good one. Good one. I like that. Exactly. And so you're spot on with that answer too as well. So when we think about those variable must-haves, we're going to think through things such as, and I see some other ones, some other additional comments coming in: utilities, groceries, transportation, groceries. Exactly. And so your electricity, I don't know about y'all, but again, power usage can vary, electricity usage can vary. And so maybe this 1 month it may be a little bit different. Natural gas, your phone. Somebody said, well, shouldn't your phone bill be the same every month? I tell my cell phone provider that because sometimes I swear they be throwing in some extra stuff. And I was like, now, hold on. Why is this bill changing? But it just never seems to be the exact same. Even if it's just a couple cents off, it varies, okay? Even groceries. I love that y'all said groceries because I feel that with my whole heart. Because I don't care how hard I try. I have a range of how much I like to spend, but it's never the exact same. And the reason being, you could buy the same items in groceries month over month, but it's not you. Prices change at the grocery store. They go up, they go down. And so it's always going to be a little bit different too as well. Medications, right? And so it depends on what you're needing that month. And then sometimes the price goes up. They do change that. They say I had a $10 here, now they're saying 30. That can change. Gas, the same thing, very similar to groceries. You do need gas for your car to get where you're going. Well, now we know there are EV cars out there, but most people are still using gas for their car. And so, but prices change and fluctuations in that. Childcare. It can vary. How many days did they go to childcare this month? It can vary. Maybe they were sick some days. Maybe they weren't. Maybe we need them to go a little bit extra because of what we have going on. All of that. And even necessary clothing, because you may not need that every single month, but it can vary. It can fluctuate. It all depends. So again, variable must-haves, expenses you cannot do without that are a different amount each payment. So let's talk a little bit about your debt payments and then sanity expenses, because you want to make sure you're keeping track of all of this. And you'll also see on the screen, you've seen on the last 2 slides, you want to write down, if it's something you pay weekly, how much am I paying it weekly? If it's something I'm paying monthly, what is the monthly pay piece into it? And then definitely do a calculation of how much is it costing me yearly, okay? So debt payments, y'all, this is so important. You definitely need to know for each loan and debt that you have, how much you are having to pay back. And we all know debt is that's that money that you borrowed from one party and you got to pay it back. So that could be your auto loan. That's going under debt payments. Student loans, if you have it, that's going under debt payments. Credit card, debt payments. And I see here, and I just want to emphasize, you see that we just have credit card here. That was just for a standard piece. I would strongly encourage you and suggest to you, don't just make credit card a blanket statement. List each credit card out. If you have 4 credit cards, list all 4. If you have 5 credit cards, list all 5. I also want to say, just to change maybe a little bit of perspective, I have heard people say they don't consider store credit cards, or they forget about them. If you have store credit cards, don't forget, list that down in here too as well. All of your debts should be listed over here, even if you have certain things that you're paying back on too as well. So if you're paying back on, maybe it is a medical bill that you have to pay back or something like that that's major, list it if you know it's a debt payment that needs to be paid and you have a payment plan. And the last thing that you want to take a stock of is your sanity expenses. And so this is going to be the stuff where, just little stuff here and there, those small expenses that just kind of keep you in your right mind, keep you in perfect peace, help you give relief, enjoyment, just so you're just, kind of getting through and not just feeling like you're just losing it. And so examples, think about entertainment, treats, gifts. So that would be video streaming services, any treats. Think about going out to the movies. All of that stuff would be listed under sanity expenses. And so we've kind of gone through the breakdown of what are all these different categories. And so from here, you want to make a list of all the total expenses that you have. Okay, what is the total from the must-have fixed expenses? What are your total must-have variable expenses? What is the total for your debt payments? And what are the total sanity expenses? And you're going to list the totals for weekly, monthly, and yearly. You want to have a full detailed breakdown. Now let's talk a little bit about cost cutting. One of my favorite topics, right? Thinking through this. First, we got to understand what's a need versus a want. And we hear it all the time, and I know sometimes people say, I know the difference between need versus want. Well, sometimes we have to really ask ourselves, is this a need? Is it a need? I may feel like I need it, but do I need it? Me personally, I feel like I need Netflix so I can watch my shows. But do I really need it? For my mental sanity, I think I do. But if I really got to cut back, no, that's a want. I can cut it down, right? I can tell myself, go read a book. Go walk, go run, do something more productive with your time. But that's a want. I may think I need it, but is it? So just some things to think about on ways that you can cut back on some of the needs, especially when you're in this crisis moment. Remember, we're talking about a crisis situation. Think about trimming back on necessary ones when we're talking about needs. So scale back on your cell phone plan. Really do. If you've never done this, I strongly encourage this. I heard this. This is great feedback I got from doing a presentation not so long ago, and someone shared this, and it works. Go talk to your cell phone provider and actually get them to break down for you how much you're using in data monthly. And here's why. You may have the unlimited plan, thinking that, yeah, I'm unlimited, I don't want to worry about it. And you may think in your mind you're using so many minutes and data, things like that. But maybe they have a cheaper plan and it still could save you money and it's still going to cover what you're currently doing. Okay, do some research. Think about grocery expenses. We're going to talk through some ideas around grocery expenses. I'm going to come through that because I'm going to pose a question in the chat, but I'm going to use grocery expenses to kind of explain some things while you all are answering. Next, look for coupons to save on the necessities. There is nothing wrong. If I'm going through a hard time financially and just in general, there is nothing wrong with a coupon, okay? If the coupon giving me 10% off, I'm going to take that 10%. If it's $20 off, I'm going to take that $20 off. I just used a coupon the other day to get my oil changed. I sure did and saved $20. Use those coupons to save on the necessities. I have to get an oil change for my car so the car doesn't break down. I'm going to use a coupon. I just saved $20. And then we'll incorporate bartering where you can so that you can save on spending cash. We're going to talk a little bit more later on about what exactly is bartering and think through ways that you can actually leverage that too as well. Now let's go over to the want side of things. Think through ways that you can cut back on unnecessary spending. I gave that example about Netflix. I had to tell myself, do I need it? I recently made the decision last year to actually, they say, cut the cord. I didn't get cable. And the reason being, I still have my internet, but I was like, I don't really watch cable like that. I do a lot more streaming services or watch the same shows, like whatever's new on streaming. Why do I have this? And so I cut back. That was unnecessary spending. and even some shopping and going out to eat, different things like that. Cut back on that. Take inventory on automatic payments that you have set up, and then think through maybe taking it off automatic so that way you can manage every dollar. And here's why. There's nothing wrong with automatic payments if you are in a good financial situation, you're not going through a crisis time, and if they're going to give you a discount on the interest rate by setting up that automatic payment. But if I am in a moment of tightness and difficult times and situations, I'm in a crisis budget, I might need to account for every moment of where my dollar is and what is being spent on. So specifically during this period of time, I might need to take track of that. Last but not least, track and log all your automatic subscriptions. Y'all, you may be surprised when you think, I'm gonna come to that. You may be surprised when you think about all the streaming services that you're paying for and you don't even realize, even gaming systems. I'm going to make this so somebody put in there, some cell phone providers are now offering Netflix for free or at a discount. Check it out. You are exactly right. Personally, my cell phone provider, I found out that they do Netflix for free. Yes, I got to watch them ads, but I'll watch an ad if that means I don't have to pay nothing. And I get Apple TV for free. And I recently just learned that through Walmart Plus, I get now Paramount Plus to go along with it too as well for free. So I love that you brought that up. That's so true. Check with your cell phone providers and see. They're not just going to blatantly tell you all this stuff. Do a little research, a little digging yourself. But track your automatic subscriptions. It is so easy to think you're not spending that much. But if you have Netflix, you have Hulu, you have Disney Plus, you have Max, you got Prime, you have Paramount Plus, you got Walmart Plus, you got, there's so many different other ones out here and all these different things. I just listed 7 right there. Do I need 7 different subscriptions, or can I cut it back to maybe 3 or 2? Especially when you think about the pricing of these subscriptions right now. Y'all, they are ranging anywhere. They keep going up on pricing. It can be anywhere these days. I don't really see 10, maybe $11.99, $15.99, depending. So think through that. Is there a way I can cut back and scale back? And so when we think a little bit about how can you lower your expenses, again, think about lowering your cell phone plan to the most basic or least expensive plan. If you need to, get a less expensive car. If you have 2 cars, maybe think about getting one and bringing it on down. Decrease your utilities to the most basic. If you are going through a difficult time, have a conversation to your landlord or mortgage provider to see what payment relief is available. I want to emphasize this. One of the worst things you could do is go through a difficult time and not have a conversation. Talk. There may be relief. There may be programs. They may have options available to you. Don't just ignore it, and definitely don't just not pay. Have a conversation so they know what's going on. And then think about lowering your grocery bill by buying healthy yet less expensive food and move to drinking water instead of sodas, which is better for you anyway. So I have another question I'm posing here. I'm going to talk about groceries while I put it here. But my question is, what ways have you all learned to cut expenses? And this is actually probably one of my favorite pieces and questions of this whole presentation, because we're about to learn from each other in this moment. And so again, the question is in the Q&A section. What ways have you all learned to cut expenses? Please comment. This is not to share for the good of the group. I'm sure we're all about to learn some things. And so I'm going to share with y'all a little bit about groceries and some stuff that I learned while you all are typing and answering that question. When we think about groceries, one, not all grocery stores are made equal. What do I mean by that? They don't all have the same prices. They do not all charge the same thing on the food. And so sometimes we're creatures of habit. I know I can be. And so that doesn't mean I always go to the most convenient grocery store, the one that's literally right around the corner from my house, if it's more expensive and I know that there's a cheaper place that I can just go to. Maybe I have to drive 5 minutes, but I know I'm going to save money, right? I got to break my habit and complacency a little bit. Also, another thing I heard from someone that actually works, they said they make a full list of what their groceries are and what they need. And they go to Dollar Tree or the dollar store, wherever one is near you. They go there first, see what they can get for cheap before they even go to the grocery store. So that way they're not having to pay extra when they go to the grocery store. Last but not least, and again, If you are like me, I am one of those people. I am a shopper. I have no problem saying I'm a shopper. If I go into the store, I'm easily persuaded. I just get into a good mood. That's why I don't like to go to the store. And I'm going to start adding to cart. I'm throwing stuff into basket. I'm like, oh, them cookies look real good. All them snacks look delicious. I'm like, oh, let me try this and things. And I'm just keeping there. And now I've purchased a lot more than what I actually wanted to. And so what I have learned to do is I will simply place my order for pickup. So I do my grocery shopping and I place the order for pickup. And then depending on the grocery store, they will either bring it out to your car when you're there, or you can just go right in and pick it up from the front. Why do I do that? Because it's still going to be a lot cheaper for me to take advantage of that versus me going into that store and buying like 5 to 6 things that was not on my list. Okay. So just another share, me being open and honest, but maybe get things to think through. Again, y'all answer the question. What are some of the ways you've learned to cut back on expenses or things that you've learned? So feel free, answer that question, put those comments in there. Want to hear and share it with the group. I see we have one response right now. I love this. Borrow movies from the library versus streaming. I love that. You know what? I've never thought about that, but I'm going to have to start trying that. I'm going to do that. I love, 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 love that idea. That's a fantastic way. That also much cheaper. So again, in case y'all didn't see that, borrow movies from the library versus streaming. And again, feel free, again, put some comments in the chat and in response to this question and Q&A, what ways have you learned to cut expenses? We want to hear from you. We want to share. I will also make mention in here, think through ways that you can save on gas prices too as well. Be mindful of which gas stations charge more. For me, I just have personally learned that gas stations near direct access to the highway tend to be a little bit more expensive. So I keep that in mind. I also recently got told about another app that's out there called, y'all don't make me lie to you, I think it's called Upstart. But it is Upside is the name of the app. But it actually is, it'll tell you which gas station that you go to, you link your card, and it'll let you know which card that you're doing. And then it'll actually reimburse you up to a certain percentage of what you pay in gas. Fantastic to me. Meal planning for the week, less likely to eat out, and groceries are less if you only buy what you need. Absolutely. I love that you put meal planning for the week. And that's so true. If you have a plan in place, you're more likely to stick to it versus you just start your week just with nothing, right? Because then you don't have anything, either options to think about or think through. So meal planning, yes, it may be a little bit of work for you on Sunday, but if it's going to save you $50, $70 that week because you're not spending and going out to eat and getting your lunch or your dinner multiple times, by all means, go and do it. Let's see. Recently found out that Apple product insurance through Apple is cheaper than what the cell phone carriers charge. Really? So that cuts some of the cell phone bill. I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to say it louder for the people in the back. They recently found out that Apple product insurance through Apple is cheaper than what the cell phone carriers charge. So that is cutting out some of the cell phone bill. Thank you for that tidbit. Had no clue. We'll be just sharing that with the people that I know in my circle too as well. That's a good one. Another very, very good one. I'm loving this, you all. So continue to build upon this. I want to continue to see. I know everybody has learned something. And so continue to share, continue to drop these knowledge because we're all going to each learn something from one another. So let's go a little bit into, right, we're at the end of this piece as far as expenses. You're now going to see this very large list here. You're going to see your monthly budget items. What you want to then do at this point in time is you're going to list out how much you're paying for each of these items in your non-crisis situation, and then what you're going to be paying and aiming to pay through when you're going through your crisis moment. And when we say crisis, that just means difficult situation with your finances, okay? Now, some of this stuff, when we say fixed must-haves and your variable must-haves, that's going to be right, there. But where you will see some changes and differences, maybe I'm going to cut back on clothes. I'm going to cut back on entertainment and eating out. I'm going to we can't go on dates right now. Dates is we're going to sit on the floor and hold hands and talk. Okay, I'm a little bit of a joker, but we're gonna have to get creative. We're gonna play cards. We're gonna do something. We can't go to Ruth Chris. We're gonna, just go for a walk at the park. But think through ways that you can cut back eliminate some of these expenses. But you'll see a clear breakdown here. What is non-crisis versus crisis? I also want to make a quick call out about deferred payments. When you're going through a crisis situation, there's nothing wrong if you have to defer a deferred payment. Deferred payments are payments that are completely or partially postponed for financial reasons. But what I will tell you is it's so important. If you are going to defer a payment, you need to always, always, always have a full understanding of when that payment is going to be due, what's going to be the next amount due, who is it, and the full timeline. And so you want to make sure you're using this. If you're deferring a payment, what is the payment type, who it is, how much was deferred, when do you have to start paying again, and what's the total amount due? Why is that important? That means when I start to pay again, are you going to say I got to pay what I deferred plus what would have been normally due? Or did you put that deferred payment just to the back end of maybe the loan and I just got to pay it later or something of that nature? So you want to have a full understanding of how it works. So that way you're not caught off guard, okay? Now we're going to step 2, identifying your actual income. So income, if you're working full-time, part-time, other, you want to make sure you're listed here. How much are you bringing in? And sometimes during a crisis, it can definitely be difficult to think through and get regular income. Keep looking, stay the course, right? Yeah, I know you may be applying for jobs. You may be trying to find something better. They can bring it in there. And we're going to think through some ways of generating income and other ways too as well. But again, if what you do currently have, make sure you're listing that income out that is listed there. We want to talk through a little bit about creative income creation. And so even though things may be a little bit tough and difficult, there are some things that you can think through creatively. And so we talked about groceries, but let's think about maybe grocery stores and getting, finding some ways to get a job there to get a little bit extra income. Whether it's Kroger, Instacart, Safeway, maybe it's doing something that. I think about even, it says shipping and delivering services. So maybe it's getting a job, maybe it's part-time or full-time at Amazon or UPS. Between groceries and shipping and delivery, I'm also think through things such as if you have a car, maybe it's door dashing or working for Uber Eats or Instacart, making a little bit of money saying, okay, I got probably maybe like an extra 2 hours or maybe an extra 6 hours in a week. I can maybe DoorDash or Instacart or whatever for those 6 hours and make a little extra money to just help out, pay a few extra bills or give us a little comfort. Even think through of online learning organizations and remote meeting companies. Y'all, this is fantastic. Think about this. We are literally meeting virtually online right now. These are companies, these are organizations, these are businesses. These employees have online, and these companies have online positions. They still need customer service. They still need X, Y, and Z. So think through companies like Zoom, Slack, Microsoft Teams, and all of that. That's especially helpful if you do have that capability and they do have maybe something part-time. And I know sometimes people say, well, I can't get a part-time job because I can't leave the kids at home. Well, if it is something like this and you're working from home in the evening, maybe I'm just working at home. I could be doing something. I can be in my PJs. I can be helping the kids, doing stuff like this, making sure they were taken care of while I'm helping. Maybe it's just filing something, doing some admin, but go look and see. And last but not least, reach out to your friends and family and think creatively, really about what people need right now. And so you may have a gift, you may have a skill, you may have a talent, something that you are good at. And so think about ways that you can actually think about how you can actually monetize that and maybe sell it and turn that into an actual product or a service that you provide. And so I'm going to ask you all another question. And that is, what are you good at doing? So that could be, I'm putting that into the Q&A right now. What are you good at doing? What is a talent that you have or something somebody said, man, this is good, or you should do this. You should think about it. So it could be cooking. It could be baking. It could be sewing. It could be cars. It could be technology, computers. Like, think through this for a second. I want you all to just pause. Let's reflect. What am I good at? And I want y'all to comment and respond in the chat for me. What are you good at doing? And let's think through how you can monetize that to create a little bit of extra money in your pocket too as well. And so if somebody writes in here, I'm very interested to see what you all are going to come up with. But if you are maybe really good at Cooking. Well, I might start selling dinners, or I might do a little cooking on the side and selling plates, or maybe I go and do a little catering on the side or something of that nature. If I know I'm really good at baking, I might start selling cakes and pies. If I know I'm good at sewing, I might start telling people I do alterations and tailoring and sewing, right? If I'm good at cars, I might start saying I can do your oil change. I can do, change your tires. I can do all of those sorts of stuff. If I'm good at computers, there's always somebody out here having computer troubles. And so, how can you think about monetizing the things that you have a gift for, that is a talent or something that is out there? So, again, the question I put in the Q&A was, "What are you good at doing?" Would love to just see the responses that as they're coming in, and see how that is gonna come through. I think it's very interesting, but it also just makes you think through a little bit like, I have more gifts and talents than I may have realized that can actually benefit me and help me even towards my financial situation in the long run. So again, the question is, what are you good at doing? And would love to see that. When I personally reflect on what I'm good at doing, I think a little bit of this. I'm very good with kids, and I always tell I think we have a larger family. And so I'm smack dab in the middle with my older cousins. And so I've definitely had to babysit my younger cousins and different things and times. And so they know if they need me to go take the kids to the movies and drop them off or go do something, they'll ask me to do that in a heartbeat. And I may say, if you give me a little gas money, okay, or something like that. Bookkeeping, oh, then that is in demand. You're good at that? Oh, you could definitely go use that to make some additional creative income generation. I'm sure that somebody is on the line right now saying, who said that? Right? So that's in demand, right? But you're good at it. So it's like, if I need to go make a little extra money, I can think through, how can I leverage this skill that I'm good at to go make some extra cash and be a little bit creative? Do you know if the library anywhere offers testing type resources to identify what we're good at? Ooh, I've heard of some of the local schools offering that for career college counseling for their students. I love that question. I am actually going to defer that to the members on the line from the Family and Community Engagement for CMS and see what they say. I'd be happy to let them respond directly to that. I think that that's a good question, and maybe something that can be brought up a little bit later as an additional topic. That's a great thing, right? To think through that. I think that's a good point. Like, what am I good at? And how do I figure out what are my strengths? I think that that's a good one. We'll circle back through that and try to get you an answer. All right, you all. So thank you through a little creative income creation too as well. And then how to think through that. You want to list that on here. So if you're going to be doing childcare and making some money off of that, list that. If you're doing delivery services, list that. If you're doing cleaning services, list that. Grocery stores, virtual tutoring, whatever, list all of those things because that's creative income. We also have in here selling possessions. Hear me well. I am not telling you all. I am not saying go out here and sell your stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is think through. We all have stuff that we may not use or that's just sitting around the house. So if push came to shove and I need to do a quick yard sale, or I need to think really quick about what am I not using in here that I need $50 that can pay a bill, make inventory of that so you already are aware so you're not having to scramble. I want to just also touch really quick on bartering. I talked about this earlier. So barter is an act of trading goods or services between two or more parties without the use of money or a monetary medium such as a credit card. In essence, bartering involves the provision of one good or service by one party in return for another good or service from another party. And so I think it's important to think through. Sometimes people don't realize bartering is actually a great way to still help do and get done the things that you need to do without actually having to use cash. I always give an example of bartering from a real life example. And so what I will share is I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, grew up out in the Highland Springs side of Richmond, and then my family moved out to McCainsville area to be closer to my dad's side of the family. My dad worked growing up at, it's now Altria, but it was Philip Morris. And so they are the company that made Marlboro cigarettes. And so back in the day, my dad has been retired for a very long time now, but back then, things were a little bit looser. Philip Morris's thing to say thank you to their employees was they gave every employee every week a free carton of cigarettes. My dad doesn't smoke, but we had a neighbor on our street that owned the largest grocery produce stand in the area, and he smoked Marlboro cigarettes. So they had an agreement. They bartered. My dad would give him the free carton that he got every week. In turn, he was like, y'all can come get produce at any time, however much you need. That is bartering. Okay. That is bartering. I didn't realize that when I was younger, but now that I'm older, I'm like, that was smart. So think through that, right? Maybe you are good at cleaning and your neighbor is really good at cars. You say, hey, I'll come over and clean the house. You fix my car and work on my car whenever you need, right? It's bartering. Thinking through things. There's many different ways, but just giving that as another option to think through how can you still get things done without always having to use cash. So back to total income, you're going to list all breakdown just like we did with the expenses, but now we're just doing it with the income piece, with the regular income, creative income, and then the total income enlisted out. Step 3, we're getting towards the end, is identify your actual budget. So now you're going to list out what is your total expenses, your total income, and then figure out, do you have a deficit or a surplus? A deficit is when the sum of expenses is greater than income, and a surplus is the amount of money left over when expenses have been paid. Everybody wants a surplus. But, especially if you're going through a difficult time, you may see where there's a deficit. Do not be discouraged. I encourage you to, one, go back and revisit what you may have drilled back on, see if there is any other way. The other thing I encourage you to do is to also think about resources. And so think about and learn about what's in the community. Know where you're like, if I really got to cut back on stuff, know where there may be some food bank services that you can do that and go there, get some free meals and produce and different things like that. Know who may be doing, vouchers or different programs. So learn what's in the community and say there's nothing wrong with finding out here and getting the help that you need if that's going to help get you through on the other side. Share a little bit of resources. And so this is just our money and mindset website. Feel free, again, to scan this QR code. This will take you to our money and mindset website. You do not even have to be a Truist client to take advantage of this. It's completely free. And so out here, you're going to get articles, calculators, and tools. So if you need a budget spreadsheet, you're like, I don't know where to get started. There's a budget spreadsheet out there free for you to download. There's different calculators and tools for you to even play around with. There's a financial personality quiz. I encourage you all to go take that too as well. Just kind of toss to you a little bit about your relationship with money. A prime example, it told me I was the dreamer, which is true. I'm usually pretty good, but sometimes I get a little bit lofty, and I have to be real back in and brought down a little bit and more and focused. And then also a podcast. If anybody is a podcast person, it's called Money and Mindset with Bright and Brian. And it's fantastic. They even deal a lot with the relationship with money and the psychological aspects, and really great information continuously be shared. And then also an email program too as well. And so at this point, we are at the end of the presentation, and I would love to open it up for Q&A. And so if you do have any questions, you all have been seeing where we've been using the Q&A throughout the presentation. So feel free to leverage Q&A. And again, we'll try my best to answer any questions that you all may have today with the remaining time that we have. While we are waiting for that, just want to let you all know, you will see in the chat the link that I mentioned earlier, where you can provide feedback on the session for today. Please provide your feedback, because this is how we learn, what is working, what to continuously bring to you, and making sure that we're bringing relevant and pertinent topics that continue to help you and your family grow and just feel overall confident in your overall life. And so again, Any questions? Will the presentation be shared mainly to capture the QR codes? Great question. So this presentation, their workbook that will get uploaded is going to have all of this information in it. And so do not worry, you will have access to the workbook that does have all of this information. Great question. What other questions may be out there? So yes, you do see the response in the chat. The session and resources will be added to the Family Academy on demand. Okay, perfect. Well, you all, if there are no further questions, I just want to first and foremost again say thank you all so much for just taking time out of your day to invest in yourself and your families. I know that that's so important and that is the forefront of everything that you do. So just thank you for your time. I hope this information shared was valuable, that you took away some great information. Please share and give your feedback. And just again, thank you all so much for your time today. And I hope you all have a great, great rest of your day. Ooh, I do see a question. I'm going to answer it really quick. What's your favorite budget eating out spot and place? Mm, that's hard. It's hard. That's hard. Um, so I really like food. I don't personally have a budget eating out spot in place. I would say if I'm really am doing something and I really want to go out and I know I really am on a budget, I'm typically gonna go for somewhere that's like got a 2 for 20 or 2 for 22 or 2 for 24, or something of that nature and find that really quick. Um, but yeah, that's a hard question. And for me personally, I think it's an overall health thing or where I'm just at right now. Because even with fast food, that's hit or miss. I just, if I know I'm on a budget, I try my best to cook at home, but do things that have a balance. So I try to do a balance of things that maybe are frozen dinners, which may not be the most healthiest, but I know it's going to have the flavors, but then also things that may take a little bit of time, but I know it's going to be really good. So I just try to have that balance, and it's still going to come out cheaper than me just going out to eat all the time. That was a really good question. All right. But there's no other questions. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much.